Hey guys, we're going to read chapter 61 of The Wild Robot, titled The Guide. What's your prediction? Who or what would be a guide? Remember, yesterday we left Brightbill and Roz on the run from the hunters. And the hunters almost shot Brightbill, but they didn't. And now they're just scared and maybe on the run. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get out of that forest. Let's see. Chapter 61, The Guide. A light drizzle was falling on the travelers. Although they weren't actually traveling at the moment, they were standing still and staring up a steep mountain of rocks. The robot had plenty of rock climbing experience, but had one bad fall out there and she could be stranded forever. So Roz carefully picked her way up the slippery slope, while Brightbill fluttered along beside her. They hadn't gone far when there came to be the sound of hooves clattering on stone, and then a horned creature leaping from the midst and smashing right into the robot. Clang! Roz went flying backwards. Roz crashed into the ground. Standing on the rocks above the robot was a wild ram. He had big, curling horns and crazed look in his eyes. Brightbill flew to his mother's side, ready to defend her. "Stay away from my mama," he hissed, spreading his wings. But rather than charging, the ram hung his head and started to cry. "Oh, I'm so sorry," he blubbered. "I don't want to hurt anyone. Sometimes I just lose control and I smash things, and I feel off about it. I really do." Roz brushed herself off. "I believe those are your instincts," she said. "We all have them. They can be very powerful. I only hope your instincts do not end up breaking me." "Don't worry," the ram sniffled. I'll try not to let my instincts break you." "I appreciate that," said the robot. "My name's Thud," said the ram. Which way are you headed?" "We are trying to find our way out of the mountains," said Roz, "but they never seem to end." "Oh, well, you're almost there," said Thud. Let me show you the way. It's the least I can do for smashing you." The ram pranced away and led our friends to a narrow path that wound up the rocky mountainside. Roz tried to stay close, but Thud was born to climb. He easily scrambled up the steep slopes and vanished into the midst. A minute later, his friendly voice called out, "For a creature without hooves, you're not a bad climber." And there he was, peering down from a cliff ledge. The path opened into a foggy meadow where the whole flock of wild sheep were grazing. They reminded Roz of the cows grazing in the pasture, and she wondered how Hilltop Farm was doing without her. Thud pranced through the flock. "These are my new friends," he announced without stopping. "They're lost, so I'm guiding them out of the mountains." The sheep raised their heads. Thud had a habit of making weird friends, but these two were definitely the weirdest. The flock watched as the ram, the robot, and the goose continued up the mountain and disappeared into the mist. Higher and higher they climbed above the tree line to where there were only rocks and scrubby plants and trickling mountain streams. They occasionally came upon a dirt road or a hiking trail, and the ram trotted across casually while our friends crept across cautiously. At one point, the ram got that crazed look in his eye again. His horns came flying at the robot, and she jumped out of the way just in time. Then Thud cried and apologized for his instincts. Roz forgave him, and the group carried on. Then finally, they hiked up from the mist and onto the mountain ridge. Above, the sky was clear. Below, a blanket of puffy clouds spread outward in every direction. The sun was setting, and the western clouds were burning bright pink. Roz thought of the mountaintop on her island. If only she could be watching the sunset from that peak instead of this one. But they still had a long, long way to go. Thud pointed our friends to one last path. "This will take you down from the mountains and through the foothills," he said, smiling. The ram suddenly got that crazed look in his eye again, and the robot prepared to jump. But this time, Thud pulled himself together. He said goodbye to the travelers And then he pranced away. There's the picture of Roz and their friend Thud and Bright Bill. Oh, look what Roz still has on. The utility belt that they gave her. That Jad and Jaya gave her. Pretty cool. All right, you guys. So for this chapter, I want you guys to pick an animal. It can be any animal, but it has to be a real one that you kind of know a little bit about already. And I want you to make a list of what you think its instincts are. You can research it on Google if you need to, but I want you to write at least 5 instincts that your animal has. And then I want you to draw a picture of that animal with Roz and Brightbill. So maybe you could talk about what instincts that your animal would have if it came across Brightbill and Roz. So like Thud, our friend, our ram, his instinct was to use his horns and his thick skull on his head to ram against Roz or something that scared him or frightened him, right? So that was his instinct to protect himself and his herd. So think about your animal like a fish. What would a fish's instincts be? Maybe like a goldfish. His instinct would be like, no, swim away, right? So think about your animal, what instincts it naturally has, and how those instincts would be used if he or she or your animal came across Roz and Brightbill in whatever setting your animal is naturally found in. So if you were doing a fish, you wouldn't talk about the fish's instincts on top of the mountain where they were in the book. You would talk about wherever your instincts or wherever your animal is found normally and pretend that Roz and Brightbill were there. Okay, write it, type it, however you want to do it. Send it over to me. Don't forget to draw your pictures, and I can't wait to see you. See you guys.